Let's go today. Hi, Scott, and hi, everyone. Welcome to Awaken Hidden Truth.
Hi, Perry. We got to get the vibrations up to a certain point before I click on the record button, which is often a surprise for Perry because the energy has to be right. Not just for me or her, but for the many masterful beings that we go visit when we get out of our bodies on these journeys and go off the Earth, outside the negative atmosphere that's inside the atmosphere of planet Earth, and get out in the cosmos where we're not affected by such things, which is why we begin our journeys outside the atmosphere of planet Earth each and every time. Right, Perry? I mean, that's just common sense. When you have enough experience with it, you understand why we do this way.
Yes, I understand. And just keep listening. Just go on journey. The experience will come. The life will change forever.
And it takes some effort on your part, though, right?
Correct. It doesn't come easy like this, but it will come.
People on Earth, I do not blame the people of Earth or governments, classified people. I don't throw stones at any of the people who act like tyrants and lie to people and classify things and think they have personal power to lord their awareness, as limited as it is, over the rest of humanity. They don't have that right. They think they do, but this is badly incorrect. And the hue, the omnipresent energy that surrounds the planet Earth out in space, will correct this most severely if it has to get them to change their fixated, fear-ridden ways. It doesn't matter which leader is in what country or who they are not exempt from having to answer for the fears they're projecting on everyone else. Ultimately, it is not a vindictive or revenge-filled type of system, but it does teach people better, whether they like it or not, eventually. What's going on now outside of Earth has to do with how beings from other worlds in vast numbers and the master teachers that work with them can revive or awaken a completely unconscious, misdirected mass of people on this planet who are convinced they know things and that they're right self-righteously about what they believe is true. And without exception, almost every single person on this planet, religions and governments, are wrong about everything, about the way the supreme source, prime creator, or anything is, or the energy they call zero-point or toroidal energy that fills the void in the cosmos in many levels and many dimensions, is just right in front of people's face. It's when you get in a ship outside of Earth, it's all around them. And there's no negative. So astronauts feel like they're meeting God out there. And in a way they are. But it's the spirit presence or the living energy we call the hue, or the omnipresent first sound that was brought through all the dimensions to create all the worlds and all the levels. And the beings that are unconscious on Earth today, who are running bodies and don't remember this, were also atmas, what we call soul, that were part of co-creating the way things are on Earth today. And if we're going to change it, it cannot be changed on a planetary scale from people living on this planet, because they don't have a high enough awareness to change anything worth anything in any direction the way they are, except more negative, more fear-based decision making. That won't work. So it's going to have to take the intervention of beings who aren't suffering from that subconscious perversion to fix this place. And those are fellow beings of ours in such vast numbers you can't comprehend them. And they're right outside of Earth. That's how unconscious people are on this planet. I don't blame them. Things were done to them before they were even forced to be born here in bodies that makes them afraid to remember who they are, what they knew before they were born here, the lives they lived in other worlds, even in the higher realities beyond the void known to most Buddhist monks. That's not the end all and be all of anything. It's just the beginning of the higher realities. So, relatively speaking, there are vast numbers of world systems and races out in our Milky Way galaxy alone on 144 parallel dimensions of the physical universe before you even get to the astral plane. Then the vast majority of them are aware of what we're sharing here. And Earth people have not a clue about it. And they're afraid to confront it. Most people that pray to God are really afraid to meet it face to face. They feel guilty about something. They're going to be sent to hell, or they'll be judged and sent away to some negative place. It's the way all the people on this planet are, in any religion, really. And this is all wrong. Couldn't be more wrong. There's no righteous end to believing in some God or source behind all life that's a tyrant that will send you to hell if you don't pray to it just right. That was all made up by tyrants who controlled masses of people, not just on Earth, out in the universe. Long ago, before people even started to incarnate here. People have been being brought, human beings evolved out in the universe, in the cosmos, not just in this galaxy. And they were brought here in many forms, many races, from different worlds over a 65 million year period since the dinosaurs were made extinct. People on Earth have no idea they were part of that history. Some people are beginning to have insight. They remember something about Atlantis or Lemuria or being on another planet. Some people remember being in higher dimensions, but it's all like bits and pieces of unconnected stuff. So it doesn't really land on them in a comprehensive overview in a way that they can put their finger on it and say, I really know something with certainty. There's always doubt about every experience people have here. They get picked up on a spaceship and they're brought back. They're still full of doubt about everything. And they go through life very little changed from a spaceship ride. That is a waste of time for beings from other worlds. To do that for someone here that's just going to act as stupid as they were, except for an extraterrestrial looky-loo type of spaceship ride, big deal. So what? People on Earth who want spaceship rides used to pilot those craft. They just don't remember. Their history is ancient. It's so ancient, it just staggers the imagination of someone who has so self-limited themselves or been influenced by negative things on this planet to think in terms of finiteness, trying to preserve a lifetime of a body that's a machine, a biological entity made of DNA from the molecules of the matter on the planet, where their mother and father made love and had babies made out of matter from the matter inside the planet in the atmosphere, and only from that world. So human beings on Earth in all these races originated on other worlds, had genomes shut down so some tyrant could control them as slaves, and then they were forced to reincarnate here and perpetuate human beings shut down, living 100 years maximum, generally. None of that is natural or normal for the vast majority of worlds that are spacefaring races out among the stars. And people on Earth have no idea that what I just said is complete truth, not conjecture, debate, theory, something to be debated. When you know something from direct experience, you know it with certainty. There is no doubt whatsoever. None. And it is that kind of consciousness that is able to leave the body and explore the universe and meet with beings from other worlds who can also get out of their bodies and leave their bodies on a ship and meet with you. It's normal for them. People want freedom as they seek it on Earth. They're going to have to pull up their britches and have the courage to look God squarely in the face and stand before this source and not be ashamed and not be praying to it, not be worshiping it, just being a co-creator with it, a single Atma in an ocean of Atmas, let's put it that way, because that's really how it is. The source itself is like a big Atma, but it's not an Atma. It's a being, a consciousness manifested from the collection of all the individual Atmas or souls in all of the multiverse at a central point or nexus. And you can speak and talk with that source. It's designed this way. Our job is to return to that source while we're running a body on any planet and gain some mastery over negative matter, space, and time. Only the Atma, which is not made of matter, energy, space, and time, can do this. Not the brain or body of a personality of one lifetime. That's impossible. So whatever body a person's running on Earth, it needs to be educated, enlightened, risen in vibration, certain genomes turned on, more brain cells working. So the higher energy, the Atma, which is spherical, made spherical, like in the image of the source, not with 2 arms and 2 legs. That's all wrong. That's not who and what we really look like. Never was, never will be. There are beings out in the universe that aren't even human, that are more loving and evolved and courageous than humans, any human on Earth. And people would be afraid and in fear and judge, they're not human, they're not God's chosen, all this kind of crap. No. People on Earth are going to have to learn how to respect all life in the grand multidimensional creation, from the highest realm through the void, down through the worlds of time and space, or they are not going to experience freedom. It is required. Required. That is one thing that we do not have free will in, because we already agreed of free will to do it this way. So in a way, we do. But it's not about the free will of a brain or body or personality running one body on a planet to make these choices. It's about the Atma that's running those bodies. A human body on Earth, the brain and a body and the DNA does not run itself. The Atma, which is not part of the body or brain or personality, the real you, or what people on Earth refer to as soul, has an energy connection through the pineal gland to the brain, to the genetics of that body. And it runs it by feeding it energy that's from non-nuclear, or the body would drool and drop over dead. If there's not an Atma associated with body forms in this world, none of them could run. It's like a car. You have a car, it's got a motor, it's got gas, it's got fuel. Turn it on, it's got a spark, it starts. But it will not go anywhere or do anything until a human gets in it, gets in the steering wheel, steps on the gas, and moves it from point A to point B. That's like human bodies. They do not work or go anywhere without something getting in them and running them. Common sense. This is just common sense. I wish that more people on Earth had common sense. They do, but it's suppressed in too much fear. Fear is an artificially created, implanted subconscious negative program in people on Earth. And it influences them emotionally, the nervous system, when it's stimulated or turned on, these programs. They get them to imagine negative things. And then they put that imagination out into this one energy that supports all life. And it is the power that brings into manifestation good and bad imagination, either or both, or whatever amount there is of either one. That source energy is now changing away from that program because it just doesn't work. People just remain trapped for billions of years. They haven't been returning to where they came from, above the void. To get them to do that, an individual Atma has to wake up enough to understand they're not a body or a brain first, or they cannot have the freedom they seek. It's quite impossible. So if enough beings get involved in helping people when they're out of their bodies each and every night, when they put the body in the trance state called sleep, that everyone does, which is why there's no one home when the body's asleep and snoring, being run automatic from a distance. This is a fact. This is truth. This is not conjecture. It's not open for debate. I will debate no one on this. I don't have time for that silliness. Debate is negative. It's ego-driven nonsense. Theory, speculation, all based on fear, all of it. On I don't know, and I'm afraid to. Let's debate it. Let's theorize about it. Let's believe in something, but don't dare really know it. That is the path of tyrants. Only. Cannot be anything else. So when you or anyone else seeks freedom of being, they have to be also willing to be responsible, to accept responsibility, that they are supposed to be a co-creator with the right use of their imagination with the source behind all life. That is the absolute purpose and center of why we exist. I just answered it. The greatest mystery in eternity. That is the purpose and reason why each individual exists. Right there. That's it. Can't be anything else. When a person begins to discover this, they can begin to recreate it, even through the present life they're running on Earth, despite what negativity is going on in the planet, because they detach themselves through the hue that connects to the source from all those negative influences. And then they start to walk a life, despite whatever else is going on Earth, in serenity of being. Serenity of being is not, oh, I'm so happy and joyful, or I'm so sad and depressed. No. Serenity of being is a quality of the Atma itself in communication directly, telepathically with the source, no matter where it is, what body it's running on, what planet, and what dimension. Getting those bodies humble to the Atma running it, meaning your own higher self, so more higher intelligence can come through that brain and body and change it, is the only way this really works. We're not supposed to humble ourselves like a doormat before the supreme being. We're supposed to respect that source, each other, and all life in the grand multidimensional creation. We are, as individual Atmas, capable of understanding and knowing not only the source itself, which people on Earth don't believe they can do. We're supposed to be able to know what we are as a being, not a body, and have communication with life in the multiverse, even while we're running a body on any planet. This is normal for many people on many worlds beyond Earth. I want to say this, and I've said it many times before, but each time in a slightly uniquely different approach, to weave its way around in an upward spiral to get people to begin to remember, to recall, even in the back of their minds, that they used to know this stuff somewhere in their past long ago. Each person knows they used to know this stuff, and they want to get it back. Am I right? They want to get it back, right, Perry? They're not going to do it with fear of the present or the future. That's impossible. And most people don't even understand there's another way to live than dwelling on fear of the present and the future. They think that's normal. It's not. That's subconsciously influenced, and they don't even know by what. And as the Atma, they're capable of knowing this. As a brain and body and one personality grown up in one lifetime on this earth, there's not any experience any human being has had on this planet taught in a university with 10 PhDs that will teach them anything about this, because it's not known by people with PhDs on this planet, not even by classified people with PhDs. They may know extraterrestrials exist and keep it from the rest of us, but they don't know this stuff. It's not crossed their paths yet. So,
Scott, can I share?
sure.
To work on fears on people. From my experience, the only way is to read your book, listen to this show, Awaken Hidden Truth, and go on the journey. That is the only way for me to control fear and to go through fears, that
Right.
works.
That's because you're talking about your own direct experience. Not just what I say, but when you have your own experience as an Atma about what I share, then it's yours. It's not mine. It's being awakened within you, not in me. I can't charge money for that, and I don't. Because the beings I work with out in space and other dimensions and master teachers don't work with money. It's illegal. Do you understand this when I say it's illegal out there? Why is it illegal? Because tyrants use it to brainwash people to do their bidding. And we have to use it on Earth because Earth is the way it is. So we use money. I'm not opposed to it being wealthy or anything else, except any energy I have access to that I have the custodian right to utilize for the good of all life, I can do that. But I'll never make the mistake of thinking it belongs to me like a thing that can be possessed. Because money is just the omnipresent, non-nuclear energy manifested in the form of paper, dollar bills, and digits in a computer. It's just energy. And there's no lack of energy in the multiverse at all. None. So if people think in terms of lack and of wealth and poverty, they're thinking in the way that tyrants want them to think. That's all. I suppose you could say that if a person was ready and they were taken to another planet like Nerexlum to see how human beings live there, they would think they had gone to heaven. And it would imbalance their lives terribly to bring them back to this world after that experience, because they'd be left with dealing with this place that is not normal after they've experienced normal. That could be very depressing for people if they're not prepared properly to know this stuff and deal with this negativity on this planet, not be caught by it, not be influenced by it. It's absolutely necessary to gain this awareness back. Okay, so if we go on a journey, where would you like to go?
I'd like to go to Saturn and Lemuria, the third parallel from Earth.
Okay, that's closer to home.
Places, yes.
And when Perry mentions that, and you can clarify this for yourself, Perry, of course, just turn on your mic and talk whenever you want. The only reason her mic gets shut off at times is because we get a better recording quality with the limits of the internet, Zoom, and satellite connections and all that, because it's got to realize we've only had electricity on this planet in this age since just before the 1900s. 150 years ago, 100 and whatever years ago. It's not very long. And computer chip technology, microscopic computer technology, and nanotechnology, and microwaves and radio waves, all that's very new for this culture. It's primitive use of energy to people, even in the next closest planet. Very primitive. So, you know, we don't have, this is pretty good. You can see each other clearly. It's through a satellite. You can hear us. But oftentimes the limits of the internet, if I try to go hue, hue, and sing out these tones, they get blocked. They don't come through because the little microphone on that little cam mic is not capable of hearing those higher frequencies. So you have to do up the settings on Zoom to hear music, and there's certain settings, and it's still limited. So the more people you get on something like when I do conduct journeys with a private group of about 8 to 10 people on this planet every Wednesday, and we go beyond the Earth and out in the stars. Even when I shut off everybody's mic so that I'm just guiding it, it increases the quality. Usually if I don't use a set of headphones, it's not high enough quality, and they'll hear the hue, then it'll get cut out, and there are parts that won't hear it, because they didn't design these little webcams with the ability to hear sounds and music through the internet on a live video feed. That's just very difficult to pull off. They're not very far advanced yet this way. Now, if you, for instance, if I were to pay for, which is very expensive, a satellite link dish to my own satellite channel, then I could do what Peter Jackson does from New Zealand when he's developing the Lord of the Rings and talking to the London Philharmonic Orchestra on big screens, and there's no interruption. That's very expensive. And most people on Earth don't have access to direct satellite feeds that way by buying their own channel, renting it, you know, from, I don't know, company that puts the satellites up there. It's for corporations. Common folk don't get to experience how far advanced the clarity is because it's very expensive right now to acquire it. You can't get it free on Zoom or Skype or anything like that, because you're sharing with millions of people a channel on a satellite, and it's just not that powerful. So people understand this. They'll understand that we are in the infancy of what is already ancient knowledge out among the stars, whether it's anti-gravitic ships or portals to other dimensions or parallel dimensions, or how many worlds there are in the universe, the physical universe. Trillions, not billions, on 444 levels before you even get into what's called the astral plane. It's just really, really big.
Amazing, yes. How we created.
The more advanced races know how to take craft between all the parallels. And they have trade in worlds, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of millions of worlds. For instance, Perry mentioned about going to the parallel dimension on Earth, where Earth is right here, but in a higher molecular time rate frequency, where there is a Lemuria, where there is no polar ice caps, where there's a moon that's full atmosphere and there's cultures on it, and it circles the Earth and turns on its axis. That's right where you're standing right now, but in a higher frequency, not astral, higher physical parallel dimension. The molecules vibrate at a slightly faster time rate. And there are links between these different dimensions. They're called interdimensional portals. They are like concentric generators, like they take a higher energy and they transmute it down to a slower frequency to feed and keep alive this dimension that comes from the next one up and then the one above that and so forth. These doorways between dimensions were set up in the beginning when the worlds of time and space were first constructed. There's no alien race that ever built that, by the way.
Scott, it's fun to start to remember who we are, and plus, my experience learned like the mechanic of universe in the same time. I think it's very, very interesting.
It's pretty interesting to know that we are multi-dimensional characteristics as Atmas, not as brains and bodies on one Earth. But as the Atma running that brain and body, we have multi-dimensional capabilities as a single being, spherical. Why are we spherically shaped as what people call soul on Earth? What they got wrong on Earth in every place on this planet, as wrong as it can get, is they think this thing was made in the image of the Supreme Being. No. Wrong. No. No.
No.
What is running this body that people don't see because they're so afraid to see it is spherical. Planets and moons and suns and stars and galaxies that turn on their axis all are comprised of round spherical objects that create gravitational worlds in another energy field they call the void that supports it. It's a pure white golden light out there. It's not dark matter. That's just because humanites can't see high enough frequency to see it. So we need electronic devices to perceive it. The Hubble telescope looks at other galaxies and you see all these colors. They aren't seen by human eyes through a telescope that way. They have to incorporate higher fields of energy, like infrared and ultraviolet and X-ray and gamma rays, to create the colors that are actually out there that human eyes on Earth cannot see. That's why we see so colorful a presentation about other worlds and galaxies out there, because they incorporate the electronics that are capable of seeing it. And they interpret that down into a print, a color print, like that can be printed out and you can see this stuff. But the naked eye cannot see them through a telescope of any kind. People on Earth don't understand this. When you get out of your body at night, which everyone does, without exception, and you go above the atmosphere of this world, and you aren't trained since birth to remember any of this is real, and you don't know how to turn on higher faculties to bring the awareness of where you go back to that brain and download it there, then you wake up as ignorant as a rock. But it's not that the abilities are gone or destroyed forever. They're suppressed subconsciously. That's all. And if they're suppressed subconsciously, they can be unsuppressed subconsciously. And this is what's important in my work, is to get this across to people. Because the people I work with out there do not deal with subconscious minds. They don't have one. I'm speaking human beings people don't even know exist out there in the universe, that are different from people on Earth, very different, vastly superior in capability and freedom. And they are not tyrants. If you cannot respect this fact, then people on Earth will never be allowed to play among the stars. If they can't play good in the playground, they won't be allowed to enter the playground. It's pretty simple logic. Because the people out there are not stupid, and they're not going to allow people on Earth. I don't care if it's the president of China or Putin or Biden or whoever they are on Earth. They are not going to be allowed to go out there the way they are right now, making decisions based on fear, which means they're all incorrect. And they're going to create more trouble with the decisions they make, spend more money trying to fix them when they backfire. And this ends in the destruction of a world, ultimately. Can't do anything else. Because beings from other worlds are taking an interest in this planet, fortunately for us, we have been prevented from annihilating ourselves. They don't run governments. They've stopped tyrants from other worlds that did make an inroad here for a few decades and then were removed from this planet. I've tried to get this message out. It falls on deaf, fear-ridden ears in the UFO and disclosure community as well. They can't understand it, they can't even comprehend it. That reptilians, the few that were here, and these little gray abductions were stopped decades ago. Haven't been any since then. People are still operating out of present time in the past about things that no longer happen and happen to other people, not them, usually. And they're talking about it on the internet right now as if it's real. Anybody that puts out in this world fear of the present or future in any form is doing a great disservice for the rest of their fellow human beings, because it's keeping them stimulated in fear, and that traps people to bodies on earth. That is what it does. It grounds the energy that they're supposed to use to be free into this planet's magnetosphere. The negative,
Yes, correct.
right? Okay.
Yeah, there are many information out there, Scott. So people really don't know what to choose, to
There's a
believe.
reason why I never charge money for this work. I sell books, even a music composition album as an MP3 download. I do because otherwise people could not get them anywhere on this planet. I can't warehouse this stuff, ship it out. It would cost $60 to send 1 pound book like the Series Agenda to Germany through the US mail. It's not possible. They have to be sold through print-on-demand facilities like Amazon has, or Ingram, which existed before Amazon existed, and would print on-demand books and get them in bookstores around the world. I have contractual agreements with these companies. And iBooks, same thing. If you want to download ebook, you got to be able to make a deal with Apple to get a percentage of your book, or they won't print it and ship it or allow people to get it. I don't have time in a day to have a shopping cart on my website so people can charge their credit card to me and I know their financial information and send a book out from warehouse. Baloney. Main publishers on earth don't do things that way anymore because they don't have to. And people are still operating very much out of present time in this regard as well. Now, your video kind of stopped there for a moment, Very.
I'm okay here. I mean,
you're not running another program, right? You're not running any other program.
No.
Okay.
No.
All right,
Everything is okay here.
When we start the journey, I will go with a set of headphones, which I don't like using. They're cumbersome and awkward and hot, but I think it improves the quality when I send out the hue, like hue. Does that get broken up?
At the end, it's very loud.
Then that's not good. Why even do these shows if we can't get that which out to people that will? What it does when I send out these hues in different tones is shut off subconscious negative programs. Not by me personally. I don't have any power over anyone. By people I work with from other worlds and master teachers that will work with people on earth and shut those down temporarily so they can get out of their bodies during these journeys, just like they do every night when they put the body to sleep, except they remain conscious. The eyes are closed. There's no light coming into the physical eyes. That brain is shut off. Not the part that runs the heart and breathing. That's automatic. But what connects the person to the physical world is turned off. People aren't consciously aware that this is what's happening. But it is. And that means when they're sitting down with their eyes closed, laying down and imagining someone they love and respect and they're grateful, whatever that is in their lives, person, place, or thing, has to be genuine because it opens a certain function of one of the little rods and cones inside the inner surface of the pineal gland. It's connected to the optic nerve. But when the optic nerve for the eyes is shut off, another door opens up. And it opens a door into other realities. So the brain and body can be run at a distance and kept alive while you're out. People die every day. They leave their bodies every night. When the body finally stops functioning permanently, that's what they call death. But people are experiencing leaving their body every day, all their life long, and they're terrified of the final time when the body ceases to function. And they should not be terrified. They shouldn't be in fear of it all. They should know where they're going before the body dies. This is normal. Earth people are not normal, even though they believe they are. So they need to recover first what is normal as Atmas, as beings running bodies, and then the rest falls into place naturally. Okay. I'll go to my video settings and I'll see if there's anything else I can do. That's HD Pro webcam. I got to use that HD. I'll see if there's anything I can do. Audio. Suppress background noises. Hi, typing, dogs bark. That's what I have it set on. Show in meeting option to enable original sound. Echo cancellation. High fidelity music mode is on. Stereo audio. Let's try that. I'm going to you now, Perry. You tell me if you can hear this. You.
Good this time, very good.
You.
Yes.
Did I put up
I
the
hear it
volume?
all the way. Yeah.
You.
No, the previous one was better.
All right. You.
At the end is a bit low. Too low.
You. How about this? Volume level, I want to make it up about here. You. That cut out. I could see it here. Let's see. That might be a bit too high. Let's back it off to here. You. Nope, it's shut off. You. It tends to want to cut down. You. Let's see if I can make this any better. Because these systems are not designed without a microphone and a preamp and a whole big setup, which I could do. I have the equipment. I may have to go to that. It's just complicated. And then I have to use a microphone and a preamp going to my computer instead of this little microphone on this webcam. It has certain limitations. That came through.
Yeah, this one too.
You know what I did? I changed it from high, typing and dogs barking, to medium, which is computer fan and pen taps. Seems to work better there. You. Could you hear them all?
Yes, yes, yes.
All right, that's the problem. Okay, let's leave it at that. I'm going to try one other. That's pretty high. No, shut off right there. That's good. Okay, that should work. All right. It's good we did that. Mooney, friend of ours, Mooney in Ontario, helped me set these up, but it didn't quite help me enough to set up not going to the highest level of noise suppression, because that suppresses the sound of the hue as well. So I go to medium on these settings for all of you out there who are using Zoom and want to get something like the hue to come across to fellows. You have to set it up this way. I'm going to share my screen with Perry for the sake of people who go on these journeys. And here's what I'm going to share. Let's go, if I can share Zoom. Let's see, if I go to video settings here, now you can see me here. And if you go to audio, you can see you can test the microphone here. as long as there's blue lines out there, I know it's getting through to the other side. But I had to set suppressed background noise on medium. If I set it here, it cuts out the hue. If I set it here, it remains. Okay, so just so people know, and we'll stop that there. Okay, I'm learning something new every day. When people offer these systems out and they charge you monthly, like they do me to do these Zoom sessions, private or group, about what is $14.95 a month, something like that. They don't give you instructions about any of this. You got to figure it out the hard way sooner or later through experience. I'm sure there's many times I've taken private journeys out there where they couldn't hear the you, but they know they're supposed to be doing it on their own anyway, on their end. When we go on one of these journeys and I begin to send out these first half of the word human in English, it opens a certain type of door through the pineal gland in the center of the brain, so the Atma can leave and run awareness of imagination back to the brain and body. So when you come back from one of these journeys, you bring back awareness of it. This is very different from the way most people wake up in the morning with little or no memory of what they were doing all night because they weren't in that body. So I'll begin these tones. I ask everyone to imagine someone or something they love and respect, that they are grateful, whatever that is in their life, person, place, or thing, but something when they first imagine it, it makes them smile. When you do this, it begins to turn on a certain higher function. The Atma, which is spherical, hovering above or outside the body, can be in the center of the head, depends on what it wants to do. But generally it's hovering above or behind or outside the body, running it. Of course, this is the kind of thing that fear keeps people from remembering on Earth. And this isn't conscious fear, it's subconsciously motivated or influenced fear. Subconscious meaning there's a part of what you call your mind that has programs in it you don't even know are there. And that cannot be ever a good thing. I don't care what anybody on Earth says, it's not a good thing to have a subconscious mind. We're not meant to have anything subconscious in us as beings. So we want to eventually do away with subconscious anything to be free, to be able to play in the universe responsibly, with childlike wonder, with so many other beings that have this freedom already. Some of the beings I work with have had this kind of freedom for many millions of years. They don't have to acquire it someday, they have it. It is these types of beings we meet when we go above the Earth, out in space, above the planet, as the Atma, not the brain or body, which is left in the trance state we call sleep. And then beings I work with will help each person that is sincerely wanting to go on these journeys. So as they begin the process, when I do the hues, they will help them. These are usually a couple, a man and a woman, not from Earth, very well trained, who do not have subconscious minds and therefore do not deal with negative emotions and imagination in their own personal lives. So they are the best and most responsible people to see to it that your subconscious fear programs are turned off, at least temporarily, while you go on these journeys. So when you're out of your body, you can have the greatest conscious recall of the journey and bring it back to that body. That is the purpose of these journeys. I'll begin those tones now. I would ask that you take several deep breaths. See, it's just like you go to sleep at night, except in my case, I have had the training and the experience to use my vocal cords to speak to you, because really I'm talking with you all telepathically. As a spherical Atma hovering above this body, running this body, with all of you hovering above your bodies, And this is where the communication is really taking place. And even though the recording of the event is on Zoom, our experience with each other is not. I will begin those tones now. You. 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 What I'm doing from my end is sending out a hue to the omnipresent living first sound behind all creation, that energy out in the void between all planets and between all things that float in it, all the tiny things like galaxies that float in this vast, luminous white golden light. It is not dark as human eyes detected. It is a white golden light the atmosphere sees when it's out of its body. Scientists on Earth today, usually quantum physicists, theoretical physicists, and a few others, understand this zero-point or toroidal energy universe is not matter. It does not obey the laws of physics of physical matter either, nor the speed of light they think is limited to 286,000 point something miles per second. That's only what they've determined the speed is in the range of what human eyes can see. There is no limit to the speed of light, except the limits fear-ridden people have placed on it in their ignorance, because they have no other way of knowing any better on Earth. If full disclosure had happened already, governments were no longer tyrant governments on this planet, making decisions based on misdirected fear, then all the people of Earth would already know this with certainty. There would be no doubt about it. Until people on Earth can be free of doubt and fear and speculation and theory and belief and replace it with direct conscious, confident, knowing experience. They will remain in ignorance. Fear and terror behind it are artificially created, subconsciously implanted emotional programs. The implants of this nature are not placed under the skin like an electronic chip. No. The implants are an energy field artificially created that surrounds the outer circumference of the sphere of each atma. The atma itself cannot be destroyed or harmed. But you can see through a field of energy that's artificially created around you and misunderstand your own nature and the nature of the multiverse and be afraid to remember. So it's those kinds of things that are subconscious that affect the decision-making of people on Earth today. Tyrants created and orchestrated this mess. Those tyrants are no longer influencing this planet at all. They have been removed and sent outside our solar system, which is now quarantined in an energy field, not by anybody on this planet. And that is to protect us from ourselves and to protect people from Earth from going out among the stars with all of their perverted, fear-ridden thinking and start throwing their vomit and their garbage out on other beings who don't deserve it and will not tolerate it in the first place. There is no future for the people on Earth in space with other races until the people of Earth can awaken enough to respect each other and all life out beyond Earth. Otherwise, we will be quarantined from playing among the stars. The beings I work with, and beings called silent mentors, which most people have never heard of on Earth, orchestrated this quarantine field. It is quite beyond any technology anybody on Earth will ever have to disintegrate that quarantine field. It is because of that field of energy and certain ships from other worlds that are stationed in our solar system now. It's because of their presence that nuclear war has been stopped many times on our planet from taking place so far. I do not concern myself at all with nuclear war because I know well that governments on this planet have been prevented from using them many times. The last time people on Earth were permitted a perverted free will to drop nuclear bombs on people was to end World War II. It has not been done since. That aside, be above your body near the ceiling. Now, this is just daydreaming. Everybody on Earth knows what that means. You're sitting around in an office and you're bored. You're looking out the window and you imagine being on a ski trip that weekend while you're paying attention to your boss, or maybe in a schoolroom listening to a teacher that's boring you or whatever. And you'll imagine being somewhere else. Now, people on Earth, as they grow up here, believe that they're making that up in their brain. This is not true. There is no mechanism in the human brain that's part of it can be divided off to be a movie projector upon which images can be imagined on a screen, like a movie screen. No, that's not the function of the human brain at all. Imagination, even idle imagination, is something that the Atma running that body from above and outside of it is seeing somewhere else, because the Atma can see into or connect with any point in the multiverse and experience it if they were there. In fact, the Atma, being made of energy that is not part of time and space, which is 0-point toroidal or zero energy, because it has no mass, can be anywhere. And the laws of physics, gravity, and the speed of light do not apply. More advanced races, many of them that run spaceships between galaxies and star systems, understand how to co-creatively work in harmony with that 0-point energy, which is not nuclear. And you cannot control it for your own ego trip against all the races, because it's its own teacher and it will teach people better. So that kind of an illusion of dominating one country, one race over another is exactly that, an illusion. Because people, as personalities, as the Atma running bodies, do not have personal power. There is one power in the entire multiverse. It's a field of energy that runs through all the different levels of molecular time rate, that is a conscious energy, that is non-nuclear, non-atomic. We have to learn to work with that if we want the freedom of what it can do to get us around creation. In ships, or as the Atma without the need for ships. Imagine yourself being up near the ceiling. Just imagine what it would be like to be floating there as a spherical entity, what you call soul, looking down on your body with its eyes closed, sitting in a chair, or laying down. Then look through the walls of your house, because the Atma is not limited by matter or space or time, remember? And then look and see what it looks like to be around your house and your neighborhood and your city, because all of you know what that looks like anyway. Then be in the atmosphere at 10,000 feet as a spherical being looking down over your city, and you focus on the top of the roof of where you live, and you can see yourself hovering near the ceiling. In other words, as an Atma, not of time and space, of a pure kind of energy that is not limited, is in both places simultaneously, and it's you. And then be out in space, out beyond the Earth's atmosphere, beyond where you can see the Earth and the polar ice caps and the oceans and land masses and the barren moon crater marked with meteor craters and no atmosphere, doesn't turn on its axis as it orbits the planet Earth, always showing us the same face. And the sun, yellow in the distance. Billions of stars around us, and in between all of it, this white golden light, what people call the void of space. It is void of material things, but it is not void of energy. It is 0 point, toroidal, the energy of the universe. And it does not obey the laws of physics, and it never will. There is understanding how to work with the limits of light, as it's known to people on Earth, and matter, DNA and molecules and the like, and craft made of such things. And there's ways of creating zero mass, an electrogravitic field around a craft that the occupants inside experience they're zero mass, in which case the field of energy that's created, if they were to move at 90-degree angle turns in an atmosphere at 10,000 miles an hour, for instance, they would not feel centrifugal or centripetal forces. They wouldn't get knocked around. They wouldn't even notice the turn. This is how more advanced craft move around, in or out of atmospheres, riding and being drawn to or compelled away from other electrogravitic fields, gravitational fields of force, out among the stars on other planets and other points. Each have their own precise frequency. In space, you're simply a spherical being made of an energy that is not nuclear. You don't feel heat or cold. You don't feel radiation from the sun. And you are hovering in a circle as a spherical being, an individual Atma, around a friend of mine, and who is respectful of all beings. His name is Ambassador Torellian. He is human, or he was, and he's showing you a body made of pure energy that looks physical, standing 18 feet tall. That's pretty tall. Long, slightly wavy blonde hair, big blue eyes, looks like a Greek god in a gown with bare feet, slightly pointed ears like an elf, about 36-ish, holding his two thumbs up with white golden light around each. And he's brought energy here to the space above Earth from a reality above the void known to most Buddhist monks, to the Atma plane, which is the first higher realm above it, beyond it. So that this energy field we're in is surrounded by a white golden sphere of light from a higher dimension. There is nothing of any negative nature on Earth in technology, satellites, weapons, or anything else that can affect in any way what we're doing here outside of Earth. No negative beings, no negative spaceships, no reptilians, no grays, none of that. Laser beams would not affect anything here. Nuclear weapons, you wouldn't even feel them. So this is where we begin our journey. Now, down in the atmosphere of Earth, that you can see down there, there is a field of energy, what's called a toroidal field, like a gravitic field around the planet, comes out the north, goes in the South Pole, that kind of thing, which is not understood by scientists on Earth. They understand its gravity, but they don't know what it is. They really don't. Okay. In the atmosphere that surrounds that planet is contained all of the negative and positive things all beings have ever done to each other since the beginning of life on this planet. And they're still bouncing around these thought forms, emotionally powered, in the atmosphere, bouncing off the ionosphere like a radio wave. That's how it gets around the curvature of the Earth. It's a strong enough transmitter. And people are influenced by these things that have happened in the past. Feeding people to lions in Rome, all that's still there. And all the good things too. Unfortunately for people on Earth, there is more of a percentage of negative about the present and future taking place with the vast majority of people than about the constructive and uplifting. So the condition of Earth is obvious. People on Earth do not remember enough to change the direction they're heading this planet. So it has to come from fellow beings with their kindness from beyond Earth in order to help us over this critical place where we would destroy ourselves on our own, but with their assistance, we'll make it over the edge and into a new reality. This is underway and has been planned from off-world because the beings off-world have realized in recent years that people on Earth no longer have free will to choose right action. They make choices based on subconsciously influenced fear, and that's always incorrect, without exception, because it's negative in nature. It can't produce anything but negative results. Every action in physics creates an equal and opposite reaction. And this deals with thoughts, measurable on oscilloscope, and the emotions that power them. That's what people call karma. It's just another term for every action creates an equal and opposite reaction. Out in space, when you're free from the burdens of the fear you grew up with, and that body is asleep, on automatic, down on Earth, just like you put it in every night when you put it to sleep, its heart's working, blood pumping, all of that stuff. And you are connected to it, even though you don't know consciously how you're doing this, through a thin beam of energy made of pure zero-point energy, a telepathic medium, by the way, not psychic, telepathic. There is a difference. The telepathic pure energy is not fraught with the complications of ups and downs and positive and negative and all that stuff. It doesn't work in the fields of energy that exist as a duality in the lower worlds of time and space. It is in an energy field that's behind and supporting all that. That's the 0 point, toroidal energy, the energy of the universe, conscious living presence. And it's connected to and emanating from a source far above and beyond in the upper realities, that which most Buddhist monks know as the void. It's nothing but a barrier between the upper realities and the lower worlds of time and space. And it is there to prevent any beings from down here bringing any negative nature up there. We're meant to leave that behind when we return to the source to fulfill our destiny. And that destiny is to be a trustworthy, conscious co-creator with the source or prime creator itself. This is the true purpose of the existence of every being. It's no longer a mystery. It's out in the open on the table. In space, when you look at Torelli, he's showing you a body made of energy that looks physical. In his bare feet, standing right up in the void of space as if he was standing on ground. Behind him and above is a bright spherical energy, the Atma that is the real being, a white central core, levels of teardrop-shaped higher faculties in layers covering the entire spectrum of light from white to a violet exterior, the golden energy field surrounding it. That golden energy field is the same as the omnipresent living energy around us. The white core in the center is representative of an energy that comes from the source itself, which means as beings, we are source energy, prime creator itself. Like a pure drop of conscious individuality floating around in an ocean surrounding a central nucleus, far beyond the void known to Buddhist monks, most of them anyway. Not all, most. This sound can be heard more audibly than you hear physical sounds, and seen as light, more visually clear than you see light on earth through physical eyes of a human body. But the Atma, the real you, is what's capable of seeing and comprehending such energy because it's made of it. Now in space, when the body's asleep, there are certain beings you're going to see manifest here. A man and a woman about 36 that come from what is called the Galactic Interdimensional Alliance of Free Worlds, an organization, a vast organization of worlds that are central and governed from a planet called Zintranami, located near the core of the Milky Way galaxy, not in the center of it, near it. This is a much bigger organization of world systems than's been disclosed in the UFO disclosure community so far, behind the smaller organizations that have been revealed by certain people. It's just huge. People on Earth have a hard time understanding life exists in more advanced numbers and profuse numbers beyond this Earth, much less what's in the center of the galaxy or near it. So that's coming our way. Awareness of this is the beginning to wake up on the planet Earth. We cannot have full, true disclosure until the beings that run this world understand they have no future whatsoever, until they acquiesce to co-create in harmony with beings from other realities. It cannot be done ever any other way. If they want to be free of fear, they have to stop projecting fear to the populace of this planet. It's just that simple, where they are trapped and will remain trapped themselves. In space, you see that you have a body. It looks like yours on Earth, but it's perfectly healthy, flawless, trim, about 36. And it is a projection of made of energy of a body like Torellian. We're in a circle around him. There in the distance is Earth with its polar ice caps, the barren moon, the sun in the distance, billions of stars around us. And between all of them is this white golden field of energy. Below us, above us, and all around us, and around all the floating things in it, like Earth and the moon and the sun and the stars and galaxies, etc. This energy supports and maintains all life, all worlds, all galaxies on multiple dimensional levels, and the beings that run bodies on each and every planet. It is not biased, prejudiced, bigoted, or prejudicial. It is impartial, and it simply supports life. What we co-create in it, what people call prayer, should be the right use of the imagination to imagine in it things that would be beneficial to all life. This one power, this omnipresent living energy, is the one power that manifests whatever we imagine. We are not the power that does that. We are meant to be co-creators imaginatively with that source. And then it brings into manifestation what we imagine. And if you understand this, then you know there's a need to master or recover your ability to use higher faculties of being and the imagination in only one correct manner. And behind you, hovering there, running this form that looks just like you, is a spherical being, the real you, the Atma, or what people on earth call soul. To each side of you is standing a man and a woman with an Atma running the forms they're showing you that look to be about 36, but they are not from Earth. They are from the Galactic Interdimensional Alliance of Free Worlds. It is not a federation. It is an alliance of world systems, a benevolent alliance. And when I tell you money is illegal in all those hundreds and hundreds of millions of worlds, I mean that as a truth. On Earth, we have to use it until the people on Earth give it up and don't want it anymore. It's just that simple. There are other beings, what are called master teachers, that work with the Galactic Alliance and the world systems and the human and humanoid and other races that are benevolent out there in vast numbers beyond your comprehension. And they are not known, for the most part, to the people of Earth or in its limited history. You have to remember this. Human beings in the form you see on Earth, represented by different races on the planet, did not originate on that planet. They never came out of Neanderthal, Cro-Magnon, extinct species, humanoid. It never came out of the swamp as fish walking on fins and then somehow evolved into dinosaurs and then there became humans out of nowhere. No. No. There is no missing link anybody will ever find on Earth to verify where humans started, because they did not evolve as human beings in the first place on Earth. Humans in the form you see represented on planet Earth today were brought here in one scenario or another, going back 65 million years to the end of the dinosaurs, the big dinosaur era on this planet. The planet was colonized from outside. Both good and bad beings under agreement, under treaty. It's been a long, hard road for the interrupted history of Earth, because for a very long time, the poles of Earth would flip over physically 180 degrees every 100,000 years and destroy the surface and all life on it. A very violent affair, which has been permanently suspended in recent years. I'll give you an example. You can investigate it for yourself, but I'm not here to prove it to anyone. Prove it to yourself. Some years back, the poles of Earth were beginning to flip, and they were dangerously tipping over. And then suddenly, a couple of years ago, they flipped back to where they were in the 1500s. Something intervened so that we no longer have and no longer will have golden age to iron age and back again on this planet. That is over. That has already been done. For any of you to understand this, you have to be out of your body working with advanced beings to go through the training to understand who or what the silent mentors are. They are an order of beings that have unlimited freedom to traverse the multiverse in any form instantly without the limits of time and space hanging over their heads whatsoever. They have not been involved in evolving fellow Atmas. They are the mechanics of creation. They maintain, build, and hold in place what you see through the Hubble telescope. That is their function. And they've recently been inspired to permanently stop the polar flips of Earth so it can become a normal world, finally, and beings can evolve for hundreds of millions of years uninterrupted like they do in other worlds that don't have polar flips. This is your history. When I share this with you out here in space with Terrellian, it's telepathic in nature. This is pure communication through the medium of the hue, the first sound, toroidal energy, 0-point energy, the energy of the universe. It is not limited by time and space, causation, gravity, gravitons, electromagnetic fields, solar flares, black holes, or anything else. It is the energy behind all that. So when you hear and see what I'm describing, it is the real you operating beyond the physical body that sees and hears and knows this. This is the first step to recovering who you really are. Anyone listening or going on the journey of this little radio show, as we call it, with Perry, is older than the stars. They have no idea this is true. Anyone that can run an Atma, as perverted as some people are on Earth, has the capability to recover who they are and their purpose, which is, in a lifetime, running a body somewhere on some planet, they begin to return to the source far above the void to fulfill their commission or their purpose, which is to be a co-creator with the source in ways that will only be utilized that are uplifting and beneficial to all life. This takes knowing about and respecting all life beyond Earth, or you cannot have the freedom you seek. If any of you contemplate for a moment that somehow myself as an individual Atma acquired this information in the human body called Scott on this earth growing up on this planet, you are mistaken. Because there wasn't any teaching facility on this planet or guru that could teach me any of it. It wasn't in the brain I grew up with as an adult. It had to be brought to that brain and body and downloaded into it from the Atma that I am. And this is all I'm endeavoring to get you all to do for yourselves. The Seres Agenda book I published has a special technique section in the back. Out here in space, you can comprehend it easily. You are a spherical being. You have this awareness. You're not limited by the fears you suffer from when you're back in that body on Earth, surrounded by a negative atmosphere. Here, you know, see, comprehend. There is a special technique section in the back involving the first half of the word human. Hu is the first sound behind creation. It cannot be owned or patented or copyrighted or possessed by any being, organization, religious or political on Earth or any world. It is the 0-point energy that supports all that exists. It cannot be possessed or held in your hand like a thing. There is a technique for the prologue and all 29 chapters that are designed to help open doorways into other realities and remember and recall. There is another book, The Emerald Doorway, book 1 of the Parallel Time Trilogy, which deals with extraterrestrials, human and otherwise, in Earth's ancient past, just before the last polar flip that destroyed Lemuria, and at the time was a huge colony continent called Atlantis. Not the one Edgar Cayce popularized that was destroyed 35,000 years ago. You got to go back 70 more thousand years or so to a time long before that to get a better picture of things. And then you can go off-world out into the Galactic Alliance as it was then. And then you can come into present time on Earth through that book and go out into the Seres Agenda to see what has changed out among the stars amongst vast numbers of extraterrestrial races, moving in a new direction, a new ray of intelligent awareness running through the omnipresent you that's designed ultimately to free people from subconscious influences altogether in the lower worlds of time and space. This is underway. It cannot be reversed. When you look around you in space here with Turellian standing there showing an 18-foot tall body, you have your own physical form that looks like you, perfectly healthy, about 36. The Atma you are hovering above it. The man and woman standing there from the Galactic Alliance, showing you a body form as they really have. In our solar system is stationed several large Emerald Star cruisers. These are cylindrical mother craft in certain positions in our solar system. The scout craft, which are anti-gravitic vehicles, disc-shaped, travel within the solar system and police the atmosphere of our planet, not to dominate governments, but to keep tyrants from other worlds from coming back here. This means they're not here anymore. The sooner people on Earth begin to realize that little grays are not abducting people anymore, and they're not, and reptilians are not in bases underground anymore because they're not, then we're closer to true disclosure. This must involve the populace of this planet, which obviously means something extraordinary, many somethings extraordinary are on their way through the atmosphere of this planet to change things in unexpected, uplifting new ways. This is not something I would ever ask anybody to take on faith or belief, debate or theory. That's nonsense. No. I'm encouraging people to have the courage to accept their own responsibility in eternity as a being and to begin to do what they were meant to do. Use the imagination to create only that which is of uplifting, beneficial nature to all life. To do this properly, we must again become aware of life as it exists out in the multidimensional creation. Each being running a body on Earth is capable of understanding this under the right conditions at the right time. This energy moving through our solar system now functions in only one way. It moves forward in a spiral upward. The energy from the higher worlds moves in a spiral downward, and it's continuous, like the infinity symbol. We're plugging into that. When you look around you and see this man and woman standing beside you, they're beautiful, they have long hair, some short hair, beautiful eyes, violet eyes, red eyes, golden eyes, pointed ears, different dresses. They're human, but not from Earth. And they are well trained to keep negative subconscious drives turned off and asleep with your body back on Earth while you go on these journeys. You're just going to have to trust this if you want to proceed further. Trust yourself first as a being in eternity, then trust them in that order. Out in the solar system, there is what's called an Emerald Star cruiser permanently stationed, well, temporarily permanently stationed, inside the ice rings made of water that circle in the rings around the planet Saturn. Many of the scout craft people see coming into our atmosphere come from that ship and others like it. They not only come from other planets, they come from other parallel dimensions within the physical universe. They are concerned to prevent Earth and its misdirected leaders from blowing this place up through their own ego and competitive natures and all of that stuff. Because destroying Earth would harm billions, hundreds of billions of beings in parallel dimensions and other realities that are accessed through interdimensional doorways that exist in a grid pattern around the planet Earth. Now, we do not have the right, as 7 billion people on Earth, to destroy this world and harm those other people. They are in much greater numbers than we are, and they have the right to be shielded from that nonsense, and they have taken that right on. Out here, truth cannot elude you. Terrellian's pointing off into the distance of space, and if you look now, you're going to see right where you're standing. You can see the planet Saturn zoom towards you like you have a telephoto lens for eyes. And suddenly we find ourselves in a circle around Terrellian with this couple from the Galactic Alliance protecting you. And you see that there is a mile-long cylindrical ship stationed just on the surface ice rings that make up the rings that circle the planet Saturn in our solar system. It has a blue electromagnetic or anti-gravitic toroidal type of fielded energy around it, and it shields it from bumping into the ice rings, and it's just got a little pocket that it's created there. And you can see a dozen scout craft, 30-foot in diameter, kind of beautiful blue glass-like topped, blue gravitic light, anti-gravitic light around, and 3 semi-spheric pods on the bottom, and they're moving towards the central section of the hull. They don't hit ice chunks or anything like that. And as they approach the central section of the hull of this ship, and you're all witnessing this, they begin to become transparent. All they're doing is moving the rate of vibration, the gravitational, the toroidal energy field around the craft is being vibrationally increased, changes the molecular time rate that makes up the materials of the craft. It becomes transparent, moves right through the molecules of the hull, and then you can see it open, and you can see a big football field-sized hangar bay and a conveyor belt moving from triangular openings on each end, and beings working in craft parked in parallel rows. And the beings working on them as these ships begin to land next to them are beings of a human and humanoid nature from many different world systems. Blue skin, pointed ears, snake-like skin, golden eyes, human, humanoid, tall, short, some that are bipedal but not human in appearance. And they're all working as part of the Galactic Alliance to take care of these ships. And as a ship enters and begins to land on the floor, the hull becomes solid looking again. They don't have open launch bays. There is a control bridge on each end of this ship that's identical. It's designed to travel through interdimensional portals between star systems, even between galaxies, and between parallel dimensions, higher than here and a few lower. They are not limited by the speed of light as people know it on Earth whatsoever, because the field that's created around their craft creates a zero mass. Figure it out from there. We're going to take a little journey. We've done this before. And you're going to see Terrellian and all of us in a circle like planets around the sun, moving down towards the central hull. Then we're moving forward towards the front bridge control area, about a third of the way back down the hall, and we're entering the hall. And we suddenly find ourselves standing in bare feet on a plush blue carpet in a huge, long, 60-foot high chamber, what is an observation chamber. There are blue glass top oval tables and little egg-shaped white seats with blue cushions with people sitting in them. 300 of the ship's personnel standing to greet us. And then along the wall, just above the central circumference, are these 6-foot wide, 3-foot high oval observation windows, every 6 feet apart, going down the length of the craft. And you can see Saturn and its gas giant and all of its many moons and the ice rings above and around us when you look through those windows. Terrellian, who's 18 feet tall, is standing behind us with his 2 thumbs up. The Atmahi is hovering above it, just like you. These beings showing you their physical forms on that ship. You look above them, you can see Atmas hovering there, and they can see you. They can see the energy form you're presenting to identify yourself that's made of energy that looks like a physical body. They know you're here. So for a few moments, just let some of the ship's personnel walk up to you peacefully, smiling, and let them begin to telepathically communicate with you. And I'll be right back. And I am back. Telepathy is when you hear it. The atmos running bodies on Earth are telepathic, but they've been long made to forget and fear this. So people just call it intuition. But in reality, people are in telepathic communication all the time, throwing each other negative stuff. Just helps to trap people and keep them grounded to the earth. Which is ironic because when the body ceases to function, you're going to have to leave anyway. So, here you are free. The commander and his wife, and you can go into the series agenda and find their names by exploring the chapters, stand up from a blue glass top table from two egg-shaped white chairs with blue cushions, the back and down the seat. And they're about 6 feet tall. And they're described in the book, a man and a woman, about 36-ish to 40-ish looking, very advanced, very kind. The atmos hovering above them, the real beings. And they are from the Galactic Interdimensional Alliance of Free Worlds, and you are on an Emerald Star cruiser. If you think, or you stop to try to be negative and say you're not really here, that's old habit patterns coming from what you used to experience back on Earth from subconscious negative implant influencing programs. Ignore them. Put them aside just for this trip. And we suddenly find ourselves out in space, far above the planet Saturn. And then we're moving into the asteroid field that is between Mars and Jupiter. Closer in towards Earth. And you're going to see that we're approaching a huge, tall, golden-sided pyramid, many stories high with a quartz crown. That's what it looks like. It has a blue antigravitic field of energy or toroidal field of energy around it. And it is floating stationary between two stable asteroids in the asteroid field that once was a planet in our solar system that now circles in the orbit of a planet at high speed around the sun. This is a device. It is something that was brought into the solar system and placed there a very short time ago and turned on. There are classified people in the Space Force or the space private classified space program that know this is here. They can't do anything with it. They can't affect it in any way. It's never done anything threatening to them, even when they've tried to attack it. So they leave it alone. Now we're suddenly in the atmosphere, well, not in the atmosphere, we're out in space, hovering around Turelian near Earth. You can see the polar ice caps and the oceans and land masses, the barren moon, going in an orbit around the planet without turning on its axis, and the sun. And then suddenly you see Turelian move a hand, and it's like there's a heat wave over it, and it changes into the Earth in the same place. But this Earth has no polar ice caps, mostly ocean covered, and there's a huge continent from the left to the right hemisphere. It goes up about a third of the way below the North Polar Cap, then comes down to the right hemisphere, goes down to about a third of the way below the southern ice cap, and then back to the Western Hemisphere. And it has Lemuria written in gold letters across the surface of the continent, so you'll recognize it, and then they dissolve and vanish. This is Lemuria on an Earth in the third higher parallel dimension above the one you're familiar with, in the same place, in a higher molecular time rate, a parallel dimension. And there is a moon circling that planet that has a full oxygen atmosphere, no polar ice caps, and dome cities circling the Earth and the sun in the distance. When I say this is in the third higher parallel dimension of the physical universe, it means that we've simply changed our vibration rate to perceive that which exists in a higher parallel dimension. This is easy stuff, ancient, easy stuff. for people that travel the stars, for most of the races that do. They know about this. And this is an Earth. If you look at it, you can see down near the bottom edge of that third of the way up from the southern pole, a half-moon shaped, curved, luminous green beach. You can see it from space. It's a tropical paradise on the bottom of that continent. And from space, you can see there's a single snow-covered mountain up in the background behind the jungle. And then you suddenly realize that Turelian is moving at the speed of light with all of us around him until we find ourselves hovering above this half-mile long, curved, half-moon shaped, green, sandy emerald beach, and it's luminous with green light about a foot above the particles of sand. The blue-green ocean is luminous, that is crashing up on this shore gently. Turelian is standing up to his knees in the body form he's showing you, made of energy. The reason he does this is because the Say rays, the race he comes from, the human Say rays race, immortalized their physical bodies in a special way over 1 billion Earth years ago out in the galaxies. They did not originate in the Milky Way. We get our genomes for the type of humans we are on Earth and from many other races in the galaxy from them because they were very advanced genetic scientists. Doesn't mean they were tyrants. It means they created higher physical forms of DNA that Atlas could run to channel higher forms or faculties through the brain and body when it's properly developed and properly corrected to receive such things, so that beings could have the perceptions of the feelings and tastes and sights and smells of the molecules, say, like on planet Earth, of the atmosphere and what's going on. Mountains and streams and, all that kind of thing, and plant life and animal life. And then they could, from those experiences, eventually create new ways of imagining things and bring that home to the prime creator, to source, to benefit and change the way the universe is run for the better. This is our job. This is who we are. When you look down, you see that your bare feet in this form you're manifesting that looks like you is wiggling your toes in luminous, polished green emeralds. You reach down and pick up a handful, and the individual little stones are polished around, but they're pure emeralds and they're glowing. It's a certain charge in it. You drop the sand and look inland, and you can see at the back center of this curved green sandy beach is a brown moss-covered path going straight as an arrow through the jungle, cut right through it, and it continues past about a mile inland, past a white circular marble floor with a statue of a woman in it. We'll get to that. And then it continues winding its way up to the base, the left side of this single snow-crowned mountain. There's a huge, clear dome city covering a metropolis of sorts, 3 golden-sided quartz-capped pyramids to the left, a luminous blue-green lake, and little ivory-colored pathways of stone between little ivory-colored dome dwellings. In the background, in a semicircle, is a small mountain range with little waterfalls cascading down it, put there for the aesthetic pleasure of the beings who work there. This is a place, a Lemuria, that never sank because of polar shifts and is still there to this day. A prototype. The moon with oxygen and life and dome cities on it with no polar ice caps and rain and clouds and the whole bit, turning on its axis, circling the planet, has been here for ages, and it is a prototype that will be used one day to change the way the Earth is you're aware of to this. And this is not a violent affair. This is not something that will cause destruction. The continents don't have to become like this. The energy does. So that Earth you're familiar with now will have a moon that's alive with a full atmosphere, turning on its axis, circling the Earth, which is normal. The moon as it is now on Earth is abnormal. It is not normal. It is not normal at all. That goes back in galactic history, how that came to be there. You are experiencing a higher parallel dimension of Earth as it is right now that you're normally not aware of. It is possible to go in a Galactic Alliance craft, even a scout craft, and go into this parallel and land at these landing circular pads that surround the outer circumference of half of this dome city. There's a blue-green forest that surrounds the backside. When you look at the snow-covered mountain, you can see a waterfall pouring out of a cavern opening, dropping thousands of feet down a sheer cliff face to disappear into that forest to start a river, which goes eventually down to the ocean, dumps into the sea. Above it is an oval, human-made from other worlds tunnel with spherical little lights running down the center, and it goes through a specific type of tunnel, a kind of an oval-shaped glass-like tunnel that comes out in an opening in the hollowed-out interior of Mount Shasta in Northern California, on the Earth you're familiar with. It was built there and put there in 1908. That's all I'll say about this for now on this journey. Now you're out in space again around Turellian, looking down on this strange, wonderful world with Lemuria. And you look on the other side of this world and you see a continent 2/3 its size centered over the equator, which has Atla written on it for Atlantis, because it is a colony continent of this culture. This culture is made up and manned by Galactic Alliance personnel, the Say-Rays, and master teachers from many world systems. There is no pollution in the atmosphere or in the water on this world whatsoever. It is a protected planet. The moon here is protected. No tyrant racers from the stars are allowed to go here, ever. But you just have for your enlightening benefit. You're in space now around Turellian looking at this, and then the heat wave happens and you see the Earth you're familiar with the polar ice caps, the continents you're familiar with, the oceans, and the barren moon moving around the planet, not turning on its axis, and the stars around us, and the white golden light that fills the void between all these things that float in it. There is a place beyond the physical 144 parallel dimensions, the 144 parallel dimensions of the astral, the same of the causal, mental, and etheric. And then there's this void area that some people have mistakenly thought is the supreme being, the end, as far as you can go. This is not correct. That is a pure energy area, kind of a cobalt blue light, pale. It doesn't really have any things in it, but there are beings here if you learn how to discover them. And it prevents anything of a negative, positive, or lower energy split current from coming across this void, because once you cross the threshold of this void, you enter in the higher realms where it's called pure positive. There is no negative and positive nature. There is no time and space. There are no moons, planets, stars, suns, or galaxies here. Just what is held there or manifested there and maintained by the mechanics of the universe, the silent mentors. The first realm above that void is the Satnam realm. It is the true name. It is the first sound realm, the first manifestation in any form that looks human. But bodies here that look human are not. They are pure energy. As we cross this void, and we find that we are now deep in the interior, moving at tremendous speed across this void, we have bypassed the lower worlds of time and space altogether, so we do not waste time or energy. And as you look into the distance, you begin to see a white speck of light that's growing in brilliance until you realize we are approaching a long, luminous, white, sandy beach that stretches as far as you can see, as straight as an arrow in both directions. And then we come up and stop over this white, sandy, luminous beach. And we're looking at trees that look tropical, but they're made of crystalline materials. And they're alive. There are birds with long V-shaped tails like swallows, with twin sets of bird wings. And they look kind of like blue jays on Earth, but their body feathers are blended evenly over thousands of colors of the spectrum like a rainbow. And they are telepathic. And there are atmas hovering above these bird forms, and they've come to greet us out of these trees. And there are 2 rows of several dozen, male and female. And they begin to sing. They have vocal cords here, but they're talking with you telepathically. Remember, these are higher bird forms run by atmas, just like you. But these forms are telepathic, have photographic memories, and they can speak in any language. And they are singing the hue, the first sound behind creation, on multiple levels, like men and women with pure voices. Hue, 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 all the way through it. It's beautiful. And then their voices blend into one round, whole, vibrant tone. And then they disappear in the distance in the trees. We move with Terrellian, his spherical beings around him, over the tops of the trees and into the distance. And down below is a clearing. There's a white marble floor, perhaps 100 feet across, and a 15 feet in diameter fountain, scalloped edges of a white alabaster type of rock, and a flat circular seat with ornate carved legs that circles the outer circumference of it. And in the center is the statue of a being, a male, about 6 feet tall, bronze-skinned, bald head, about 36, strong, muscular upper arms and torso, bare-chested, 2 golden bracelets on each of his upper arms, standing in bare feet on a circular disc in the center of this fountain with his hands down to his side, his palms facing forward. A white golden light is entering in a shaft or a beam through the top of the head of the statue, coming out his palms, filling this bowl with a luminous white golden light that looks like water. And it's making a sound of the hue, and it's pouring over the edges in a even, luminous, fine sheet of light. It's vanishing down below, and it's going into the void below this realm. Next to this fountain is the being himself, the statue represents, standing there, and he's got his hands over his chest, just nodding. Now, this is a being who takes this form to show us, but it's not his true form. If you look behind this form, you'll see a much bigger sphere than we are. Beautiful teardrop-shaped layers of colored light of the spectrum to a violet exterior surrounded by a golden light, and he's hovering there above this form he's showing you. If you wish it, the light that's coming into this statue can dart as a beam of energy into the white core of your own being, go into the body you're manifesting here that looks like you, and greatly brighten the light you're capable of emanating. This raises your intelligence capability. There is a plane created just above this realm of the Atma plane, the original home of demarcation or embarkation. The beings came from before they went through the void and entered running physical forms in the lower worlds of time and space. They departed from here. Between this 5th realm above the void, known to some esoteric groups on Earth, is between the 5th and 6th is a special parallel dimension created. And we're going to take a little trip there. And Terrellian is going to move into this shaft of light above the statue of Satnam, and we're going with him. And we're instantly darted upward, and we come out hovering up a shaft of light, looking down on 6 snow-covered mountain peaks in a circle, looking down on a vast circular floating landmass in a cobalt blue, beautiful light. There are no suns, no moons, no stars, just this floating landmass. And it's surrounded in the entire circumference by a white luminous beach, much brighter than what you've seen below. When you look down at this mountain range, you can see there is a white circular island floating in the center of the ground between the 6 mountains, and a luminous blue-green water that surrounds it. And in the center of this white sandy island is a 4-foot-high rectangular with curved edges. It looks like blue lapis lazuli stone, blue stone with gold lace through it, polished. And floating above it is a 4-foot diameter, transparent cobalt blue crystal sphere. And in the center, you can see a gleaming single blue star. Above it is a shaft of white golden light entering the sphere, powering the star, and continuing down the shaft of this pedestal. It goes into the lower worlds. It passes from realms above here through this realm of the Hue Expansion Ray Academy, which is a training facility brought into creation about 9 Earth years ago for the first time. To the west, there is a tall, glass-like, kind of a transparent blue glass tower that emanates out of the bottom of another 100 or so foot wide marble white floor. And it goes up 2/3 of the way up to a flattened crystal clear sphere and then up to a minaret point. There's a shaft of white golden light entering the top of that. And it goes into the top of another fountain with scalloped white edges, but there's no statue of Satnam here. It fills this bowl in a luminous radiant sheet and drops down the shaft of this tower and goes downward into Satnam's realm through his fountain and down through the void and down into the lower worlds, all the way back to Earth. There are white roadways that extend as straight as an arrow at the outer circumference of the marble floor that this grand tower is built coming out of, that go east, south, north, and west, and end on the white sandy beach and around the entire circumference of this floating circular landmass. It is a facility which has been put here for master teachers in the multiverse and the silent mentors who normally have no connection with any of us as Atmas to interrelate, to begin to develop a new order of being, one that's blended with the freedom of the silent mentor to traverse the multiverse instantly with no laws hanging over their heads, and that of the compassion or loving nature of master teachers for students. There are 4 locations on this floating landmass where they have training facilities, these silent mentors. And they are located down a white roadway, bisecting each quarter of this sphere. 2/3 of the way down the roadway to the right, there's a clearing. And in each clearing is a blue sphere with a star hovering above a white marble floor. Surrounding it in each single quadrant, in each center, are a different type of tree. In this one to the northwest, you can see 12 trees that look like weeping willow trees, luminous and vibrant. And above them, a type of being standing there in the air that have gowns on of different colors, men and women. You can tell by the body shape, but when you look at their long hair to their shoulders, you can see in the face it's a white luminous radiance. You cannot see any facial features. And when you look into one of these faces, you see levels of galaxies in multidimensional nature. This is how they think and see. But above them, this form they're showing you is the real being. The type of Atma they are is 4 times larger than us, has more layers of teardrop shapes in the colors of the spectrum, from the white central core to the violet exterior to a golden light surrounding them, and it's hovering there. These beings do not teach on a blackboard. They teach telepathically by demonstrating for us how they think and move. If you look at one of the leaves on these weeping willow trees and focus on one, you'll notice it goes to a planet somewhere in the lower dimensions of time and space. And it also goes to realms above this one. These beings can move anywhere in that creation, from what's called the ocean of sound and light, many dimensions above here, where a prime creator, the source itself, is, which is where we all came from originally. Then it comes down here and is generated in concentric generators into lower frequencies all the way down to where Earth is in the physical universe. We're going to go to the northwest northeast, south, and west, we're going to suddenly find yourself with Terrellian standing offshore and knee deep in water with his two hands up, with his thumbs upward, with a golden light around him, the light of this place. It's brighter than what he brought down to earth. And here you will find your toes wiggling in these sounds. You pick them up and you realize they are little rounded, perfectly glittering like a diamond, faceted diamond, but they're not faceted. They're like little grains of diamond sand, luminous. And that energy runs into the palm of your hand, up through your smiling face. You look up and it goes into the white core of the spherical being you are hovering here. The same goes through the water, up to Terrellian's body, into the white core of the being he is. And what this does is impart a certain kind of awareness of your true nature above the void. And you're going to bring this back with you to earth. You're going to do your best to let it, in a gentle way, come down into the brain of the body that's asleep on earth, through the pineal gland, the center of the brain. And it's going to radiate out through the brain, turning on more brain cells, and then it's going to come out into the toroidal field that surrounds your physical body. And it's going out into the toroidal field of the Atma you are. It's hovering above your body near the ceiling right now. And you're also up here in the Hue Expansion Ray Academy at the same moment. So you're bringing awareness of this to the physical brain and body that has none of this training on earth, and letting it gently settle in there. And then the energy continues, because it's always moving, until it creates a sphere of energy about 2 miles wide. And then it continues off-world. It goes into 3 pyramids located on Earth, like the one between the 2 stable asteroids in the asteroid field that circles in the orbit of a planet, between Mars and Jupiter in our solar system. And it goes down into 2 pyramids. One, they're very tall, bigger than the Cheops pyramid in Egypt. And they have a fountain of Satnam inside each one. They're golden-sided with a quartz crown. They're sitting on the bottom of the deepest area of the Atlantic and Pacific Oceans, and they are turned on. There is another one, a third one, inside a hollowed-out interior of a mountain hidden in the Himalaya. And they are interconnected, and they're connected to the one of the asteroid field. And they're connected to even larger ones that have been brought in and stationed between stars in our galaxy recently. The energy that's moving through them is moving through the whole planet. It cannot be reversed. And it spirals ever upward. Now you find yourself hovering near the ceiling, back on Earth as an Atma. You look down kindly on your sleeping physical form, and as you wake it up, as you begin to open your eyes, you tell yourself you will remember. And when you're ready, open your eyes.
Wow. Long journey, but very good one.
It might be a bit beyond some listeners, but if they work at it a little, they can go to my website at paralleltime.com. There's nothing for sale there. The short videos that promote this work are there. The conferences I've presented at are there, radio shows. They can learn a great deal. They can get the books there by going to the book links page at the top of the main page and clicking on it. And it'll show you the front and back covers of the 2 published books. And you can put your cursor over it and it'll magnify them. And you can reverse and see the back of the book and all the chapter titles, which are extremely intriguing. And then all the links to get them at Amazon or iBooks or Barnes & Noble in trade paperback or ebook are all there. So you don't have to hunt for them, or you can just go to Amazon yourself, whatever you want to do. But without those manuals, those, how do I put it, maps into revealing hidden truth, it's going to be very difficult for people to awaken and comprehend journeys like this. But if they go into those books the best way they can, it will help them remember a great deal more. That's how they're designed.
Besides reading your book, Scott, I would recommend, from my experience, go on journey like once a week. It will help too.
Yeah, and you can go on this journey again when Perry puts it up on her YouTube channel and just play it again.
Actually, we do many journeys.
I think YouTube, their own, well, they can be kind of greedy, but by their own nature, they put advertisements at the front of these episodes that Perry can't control, but they go down 4 seconds. You can click them off. And then these videos, these journeys should not be interrupted by commercial advertisements throughout the journey. I have agreement with Perry that she does it this way for your benefit. So I do the same thing with my videos. I don't monetize them. That's just done to make big corporations and people that pay them a lot of money to put advertisements over your work and misdirect people from it. So I don't allow that. I think YouTube does allow an advertisement at the front to satisfy their clients, but after that, you can click it off and you don't have to be interrupted by that. So you can go on these journeys. I have some of these. You can see some more about this clearly demonstrated in the narrated videos that I have stationed on the front page of the paralleltime.com website. I'll leave the links there in this video for Perry to put up on a YouTube channel, so you can just go there and explore to your heart's content. Do whatever you will. It's up to you. I just put myself and this work out there for people to find it. After that, it's up to them if they want to go all the way into freedom or stay on Earth unaware. It's their choice. Well, Perry, do you have any other questions you'd like to inquire about or anything like that?
Yeah, hold on. There is a question from one of our listeners, Natalie. Okay, Natalie Proenza. I'm so new to this entire ascension thing. I'm waking up to catch up with hard to digest info. I heard from other channels that Earth was created by Ceres, and we humans are created through testing and now controlled by reptilian.
No, no, stop, no, wrong. You heard this. You heard this on the internet. You heard it from people who unknowingly are putting out fear of the present and the future. Anybody that does that is going to cause you to gain the wrong impression of what's really going on. Look, there are no reptilians in bases underground on this planet anymore. People on Earth in classified communities could not figure out how to get rid of them. It had to be done from friends from out of town, meaning higher evolved beings from other worlds did that for us. It wasn't done by people on Earth. They got themselves in a trap they couldn't get out of. The little grays that used to abduct people are not doing that anymore. Get this in your head. It hasn't been going on for more than 20 years. Are you going to be stuck in fear in the past? That is no longer taking place. This doesn't mean that people on Earth aren't subconsciously misprogrammed to be afraid of knowing anything, because they are. That's reversible under the right conditions. So no, the Ceres did not create planet Earth. They did create human beings, as you know yourself to be, and many other races out among the stars. But they weren't tyrants in this. They did it and brought these human natures to a high enough form that the Atma, the real you, could run. And supposedly do it consciously to receive and perceive senses of the planet, the molecules are made of the body, and take it back with them to the source and endeavor to imagine new ways of doing things for the better good of all life. That's our purpose. That's been shut down in people on Earth. And it was shut down in them before they were even born here. So how are they going to wake it up with the brain and personality they grew up here on Earth? They're not. They have to wake up as the being running that body in order to make that change. This is truth. It cannot be denied. You can try to deny it, but you just be remaining stuck here in fear. There's no point to it. It's a waste of time. I do not focus on negative things. I do not focus on nuclear war. I'm not worried about North Korea, Russia, or Putin, or Biden, or anybody else on this world. Because the more classified they are, the more they already know that that future they were planning for people here has already been turned upside down. They cannot do what they were planning, and they already know they can't. They are going to disclose because they are being compelled to do it for their own good. It is races from among the stars that have held back full disclosure because people are still too driven by fear here to accept and be benefited from the freedom of awareness that can be brought here from races from out among the stars. They've been willing to do that a long time ago. It is the people on Earth running governments that have refused that offer. And they've kept the massive people in the dark to choose for themselves, because we know people on Earth would have chosen to have this happen already. So what is underway now cannot be reversed. I don't worry about the future of this world. I do not live in fear. I do not focus on it. I don't dwell on it. I don't hunt it down on the internet and try to find reptilians in underground bases and Nazis in the South Pole and all that stuff. That just keeps people in fear and stupid. It keeps people afraid. They cannot recover higher awareness in fear. It's an artificially, subconsciously implanted emotion. This misdirects. And that's the only thing it can ever do. The sooner people understand this, the better off they're going to be. I don't charge any money to put this out in the world. Not one penny. Why? Because I work with beings who don't use it. It's my responsibility to do it this way. I sell books and one music's MP3 album. That's it so far. 2 other books for the Parallel Time Trilogy are written. They're not published yet because it's an expensive, time-consuming, difficult thing to do as a publisher, which I am, and an author. And they will be published when the first 2 books are more, I don't want to say successful, but more well-known to justify putting out the next 2. I don't care if people want to see the next 2 now and demand it. They're not going to have them until the time is right, when it will benefit them to have them, not before. So I want to leave you with that, Perry. I hope that answers the question, but right there, I wanted to stop it because that's going in the wrong direction altogether. People people make money on fear on this planet. They sometimes don't even realize how off track they've become by promoting fear. Fear of the present or the future cannot be beneficial to anyone ever, and it never will be. It's a contradiction in terms for a free being, for the freedom of imagining correctly with the source energy, the 0-point of toroidal energy. This is our responsibility. It cannot be freedom can't be dropped on someone's head, because in their present state, they would just abuse it and lose it again. The work we do is one way. It's meant for people to be benefited permanently now. So I talk about a new ray of consciousness moving through the omnipresent toroidal or 0-point energy, the universe that was not there before. And this is true. It is. But it's up to each one of you to discover this for yourself, and you have the opportunity to do so. I just make it possible for you to connect with and understand this. That's my purpose for being here for now. I'm not from here. And neither are you. There isn't a person on Earth, the being running those bodies, that originated on this planet, which of course makes you all extraterrestrials, doesn't it? Okay then.
Okay. Thank you, Scott, and thank you everyone for watching. And to benefit others, please thumb up, like, and subscribe. See you next time.
See you next time, Perry. And I'll see you all later.
Right. Bye.
Bye.